Welcome to Business First Africa, where it's never just business, it's life. You are joined by Ashwin Mbedi, but more importantly, with us in studio is Mr. Andrew Botel, an incredible Namibia-based filmmaker, producer, and researcher known for his work in documentary storytelling, environmental conservation, and African cultural heritage. Through his production company, Mamokobo Video and Research, he has produced acclaimed films that explore Namibia's history, communities, and natural environment. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hi, Ashwin. Lovely to see you, mate.
Lovely to have you here. So, before we get into the work of it all, what first got you interested in film?
Sure. Stories. I was fortunately unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. I had to go to boarding school when I was a kid.
I went to boarding school in grade 2, so I think we're
So
together.
I don't know if you remember, I was like 8 years old, and you got nothing to do.
Yeah,
So we told stories.
yeah,
And I started to get pretty good at it. So people would say, tell us another story.
yeah.
So that's how it started. And I think that the film side, I actually wanted to be a writer. I thought writing, the word was somehow more powerful, deeper, because you interpret, you know? Like you say the word God,
Yeah.
you say the word love, you say the word hate. It has so many meanings. And when it's on the screen kind of thing, it's a bit flatter.
Yeah.
It's already told you what it is.
Yes,
So if
it
there's a war, you know what hate is. If there's a 13-year-old and a 13-year-old, you know what love is in that level.
In that context, yeah.
So it was really just, and then I realized that writing back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was no money in it back then. So TV was where it was.
All right.
So it was this kind of decision, because I also had a baby, brand new baby,
All right.
baby Morgan. So
Oh,
it
right.
was a bit of pressure to deliver, but also follow your passion. I've never had a real job ever in my life. So I've always self-employed, worked with different people. So I just thought that's an interesting marriage. Let me go TV.
All right.
So
Brilliant,
that's how it
brilliant.
started.
And since then, how has the journey been for you? As fulfilling as
Awesome.
expected?
Yeah, the money doesn't work. But it does work. You know, again, it's one of those two-edged swords. It's if you chase the money, I think it's easy to be rich, but I think it's really hard to be happy. So I had to pursue something because I'm very strong-willed. So I had to pursue something I knew that no matter what happened, I could keep doing it. So if you're a bank clerk or something, I just thought, if it's a bad day, I'll just quit.
Yeah, you just call it
I'll
a
just
day.
quit.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
For me.
Yes.
Excuse me, bank clerks out there. I have deep respect.
Much respect.
But you know, so I thought, what can I do which I can, even when the chips are down, life's tough, what can I persevere, because I love it. And the filmmaking's been so rewarding. Like even now what I'm doing, like literally today, when I woke up, it's just awesome. So
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, what's it been like, though, navigating the Namibian creative economy?
I mean, so if we're talking economics, it's a bad idea to set up a business in Namibia. I'm just talking about now comparative markets.
Okay.
I was born in England, grew up in England, lived in Germany, lived in Hong Kong. My dad was in the army. I'm not an army guy, but you know what it's like, the lifestyle. So you're tasting all these different worlds. And then when I came to Namibia, I fell in love with the place, the people. It felt like home. I can't explain it. So I pursued that love affair, and I realized there's no markets here. So unless you create something which you can export, and I think of beer, and I think of uranium, and I think of some of the cultural aspects of Namibia, and I think of the landscapes. Do you get what I mean? So people
Yes.
come here, and it's almost an exportable commodity. So on the one hand, Namibia has a great natural heritage, cultural heritage, great opportunity, but it's really hard to add value to that space because the local market is so small.
It is. And you know, I'm sorry if I may interject
please,
there,
mate.
Andrew. One of the events that we're pioneering this year is the Creative Sport and Tourism Expo.
Yeah.
And part of the reason we combined the worlds was we felt that isolated, particularly, you know, the creative industry,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for it to be able to reach certain markets. But
Yeah.
if we're in the same space as tourism, which uses creativity, as
Exactly.
sports, which uses creativity, it gives this opportunity for expansion, for scalable expansion indeed. Now, I can't argue with what you say. We both navigate the same creative economy. I couldn't agree more. Are there any other solutions, perhaps, that you know, you've thought of from your
Yeah.
own experiences from traveling?
I think that, you know, within this framework then, that perhaps markets are bigger overseas and perhaps markets are smaller here. I'm talking local markets,
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
I'm talking who's buying what.
Who's buying one?
And I've realized that, you know, I don't want to compete with BBC and I don't want to compete with Warner Brothers. This is what I've learned. So you're asking me, it's like, I have to do what I love and I have to believe in the things I do and then find the distributions to be able to export those products. And then even, like, as you know, what we're doing here is I'm giving this to you guys to broadcast. So I don't really charge a lot of money in Namibia because there isn't the resources available.
I hear you.
So what I'm trying to do is create products, films, stories, which are local stories, absolutely built on local. All the friends I've made, you know, I've been
Yes.
here 35 years. I've got
Yeah.
3 babies born here now, young ladies at university. You get
Yeah.
what I mean? So, and I've met so many people through my films and traveling, and you know, I go hiking in the bush. I go up Rampberg. I'm in the bush. I like hanging out in Onipa and going to the Effendula festivals, and I like going down to Bucharest and checking the old volcanoes and going to Ranyuman and seeing the art scene. So it's like I'm in it, I live it, and then I feel the stories, I write the stories, I make the stories, and then through those niche, there's not many British people who would do that. There's not many Germans, there's not many Namibians. So what you're doing is creating a space for yourself within a small market where you're pretty good.
Yeah.
And if you're pretty good in this part of the world, I think in anywhere in the world, if you're reliable and you produce, I've got a mantra: on time, under budget, and better than they expected. You can do those 3 things in my industry, people are going to keep coming back to you. So within negotiating and navigating this wild, changing economy, I've focused on Namibian fantastic stories, which I think the whole world wants to watch. That's it.
And I couldn't agree more. Namibia's got some of the most beautiful original stories, whether they happened last week or happened 1,000 years ago. We have the oldest quote-unquote tribe in the world. I say quote-unquote because interestingly, the word tribe does not exist in any indigenous language. It's people,
Sure.
it's clan,
Sure.
so that would have been a construct from one of our forefathers, not sure which one. But
Absolutely, absolutely.
but you know, that part of that storytelling. But then people like yourself and I who love Namibia, sometimes we then ask ourselves the question, why aren't more people consuming what Namibians are making, especially with regards to film?
Do you want me to be hard, or do you want to be honest, or do you want me to be... I think we're poor in Namibia. Nobody can afford it. I just made a film on the shanty towns, and they're ghettos, they're not informal settlements. You understand? So these euphemisms, these nice words we use to, and respectfully to our leaders, we've had a terrible pieces of history. And we're trying to reconcile and negotiate those spaces so that everybody can have a share of the cake and have a life. But when I go into the shanty towns, the ghettos of Namibia, and they really weren't hardly here when I arrived in 89, 90. I arrived at independence time. So for me, how can you expect anybody to invest in art and culture when there's no obvious return for me? And that's food, and that's shelter, and that's clothing, and that's school, and that's medical bills, and you know. So I think it's really hard to justify why you're spending $1 million on this and not $1 million on this. So I think that to grow an economy, you have to, and I'm talking a film industry specifically, you have to believe. And we've proven it in the mining industry, we've proven it in the fishing industry, we've proven it in post-independence, especially in the tourism industry, that these can be high quality jobs. They create more jobs.
Yes.
I'm talking compared to farming
Yes, yes,
and,
yes.
and those kind of labor-based
Yes.
lower levels of education. You know, so we need to invest in our cultural and arts and sports and other things too, because eventually, and it takes time, but our children's children, like yourself, I'm sure you're not, hopefully for me too, we're not going to live in a shanty town when we're 70. And we would have invested in ourselves and our families and our neighbors, that we're moving out of these difficult realities
Yes.
into more, you know, we're talking about economies, middle class, you know, that we can support our families in a reasonable way. And
Yes.
I think that it's really tough for me to say I need X amount of money for a movie, and that's why I was talking about export markets, because overseas, $1 million Namibian dollars is about £50,000. Do you understand? Just approximately.
you, yeah.
So £50,000 in anybody's pocket is a lot of money, but in UK they might risk it. If you can make a film for £50,000, because not many people can make a film in the UK for £50,000, whereas we can make a flipping good movie in
Yes.
Namibia for £50,000.
All
So
right.
the risk, whereas perhaps a lot of Namibians, I know a lot of wealthy Namibians who are looking to invest and get a return on the investment, but they don't trust filmmakers yet.
Yes.
And I don't blame them. Do you see what I mean? So
I hear you.
So,
You please continue.
you know, so like a few years ago, I was making a lot of films around the marula industry in the north. You know, the different products and different relationships we have to marula trees and indigenous plants. And it's kind of like, you know, you had the body shop coming over, do you understand? And looking at
Yes.
this. And only when that started happening, there was a few Namibian investors who were saying, you know, Andy, tell me more about this marula story you're working on and what's going on, and is it something I can invest in? So I think as Namibian investors, we're tentative to invest often, sometimes in our local industries, and we need to do that. And I do that.
Yes.
I invest in Namibia, in Namibians,
Yes.
in myself, and export ideally, like we did with the Bajo and the Giants film.
Oh, yes,
You
yes.
know, it's a
For context to
Yeah.
our
Please.
viewers, Andrew was one of the producers of Bajo and the Giants, which was Namibia's first movie on Netflix, and I was very fortunate to be cast in that film as the Rhino,
the voice.
the giant, if you will. But
Exactly.
yes, please continue with that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's in a way a good example, because we were given a very small amount of money in foreign terms to
Yes.
produce a film. And this was a kind of NGO type film, you know, this like, we've got a cause and we'd like you to, Andy, tell us a really nice way of, it was actually about wildlife crime.
Yes.
So in Namibia there is wildlife crime, there's poaching, people are stealing things, cutting trees, pangolins, rhinos, elephants, you name it. So we were asked to do a film specifically about the poaching problem, which increased terribly from 2013.
Yes.
So I got together with Gurley Yadhama and Florian Schott, and I said, look guys, I don't want to make a documentary about this. It's too brutal. It's disgusting. If you've seen rhinos,
Yeah.
it's really hard. And also they wanted to make a film which would be interesting for the youth and all ages, but specifically focusing on the youth.
Yes.
And I thought, if I'm 13, 15, do I really want to watch a film about the killing of trees, plants, animals? I thought, no. So we sat together and said, okay, let's turn it around. Let's tell it from a young person's perspective, and then we can perhaps make it a little bit more innocent,
Yes.
but a bit more real.
Yes.
So that was the kind of crux, the kernel of the story. So we ended up at Gurley and Florian went away. I was producing the film. I was busy with some other stuff too, and I said, look, go and write the script and we'll go back to the NGO with a better story than they pitched to us.
Yes.
And we'll pitch it to them.
Adding value.
And these guys trust me, as I said. Once you start delivering over years and years, you do develop relationships to people like ourselves.
Yes.
We trust each other.
Absolutely.
We know if we're on set or off set that if you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So when I went back to the NGO, the Legal Assistance Center in Namibia, they were so awake that they looked us in the eye and said, can you do this? And I kind of said, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
And with that seed money, we then, I think, quadrupled the amount of money we got.
Yeah.
So we had a certain amount of money. I ended up getting 4 times as much, so we could do something really ambitious, really creative, for me, really powerful, and also in a way obvious and simple.
Yes.
Do you get what I mean? We didn't have to, it just uncurled in front of us, and we just ran with it, and one thing led to another. I think Florian was in the Red Lion Festival in Johannesburg.
Yes.
You know, we'd released the film and everything. It was doing really well, and it was on the festival circuit. And then Mayan Zeki from Netflix, an agent, sales agent for Netflix, came and said, "This is great. We're doing this whole thing. Do you want to?" And you know, so it's luck.
Yeah.
But you push your boundaries. You make decisions which are conscious. You don't just get fed stuff and say, this is good enough. It's like, you know, what I'm working on now, it's like, I want to put, you know, it's like, I'm a Bob Marley, I'm sorry, man. You know, I'm a Mandume Yanda Mafeo.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel, is like, we can do this if we dream that big and we stick with it. Does that make sense? So the stories I'm doing now are better than the stories I've ever done before.
And I'm going to pause right there, because I want to talk about those specific stories right after the break.
Okay.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
You are still with Business First Africa in our Creative Capital segment as we talk to Andrew Botel, a Namibian-based storyteller, producer, filmmaker, and so much more. Andrew, what are you working on right now?
I've just finished a short in-house film for B2 Gold Namibia, which is always great because that's about explosions and big machines and men's stuff and rock and roll. and it also gives me, I'm serious actually, you know, I've made quite a few films with B2 Gold after the last 10 years, and you're literally blowing stuff up. So when it comes to the real things which we want to do, I have experience blowing stuff up.
Wow.
And driving big trucks. And I'm goofing around, but that stuff gives you huge confidence and experience to say, let's blow stuff up.
Let's blow stuff up.
You know, let's do a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Let's do a war film. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm busy doing. So.
All right, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. What do you think about the recent push, particularly by the NIPDB, to try and get more Hollywood films shooting in Namibia?
I'm all for investing in the film industry. Yeah, I think you know I've been an active member, a fan of Film Association of Namibia. I've been the treasurer for a couple of years during some tough times. You know, I was there when Richard Pakleper and Bridget Pickering and the early guys were starting. You know, the Tim Hoopschlers. You know, I've been so anything that grows the Namibia film industry, I supported. And you know, this is the chicken and the egg story. It's a little bit about, you know, how do we grow Namibia's economy and create good jobs for people and a bit of security over the future. And if we had the answer, we'd have done it.
Yeah.
And so I think that the investments now which central government is potentially putting into film directly and in inviting foreigners to come over, it's great, but it's a little piecemeal for me. You know, for example, maybe 5-10 years ago, I wrote a paper about, you know, as producers, how we need some tax breaks. And we don't need them, but that's the way to grow an industry. So,
Yes.
for example, if I've got 100, whatever currency, whatever amount, but I've got 100 to spend on this film, at the moment, 15% goes in VAT on whatever you buy, so you're down to 85. Does that make sense?
I'm with you.
Then whatever income you have left over, you pay potentially tax on. And there's no breaks in between. Whereas if you're in the tourism industry, and it's true today in Namibia, you can claim the VAT back and you can claim a lot more back because that industry has been highlighted for tax breaks.
Yes.
The film industry hasn't, and the television industry hasn't. So it's a matter of like coordinating. You're giving money, but you're taking money.
All right.
And I know it's really hard because in government, I'm not sure industry knows exactly what Inland Revenue Ministry of Finance is doing. You know what I mean? As practitioners. So if you're the director or executive director of trade and industry, do you really know what's going on in all the other industries like the film industry and things like that? And so to integrate this, you know, we have the Namibia Film Commission, and I love them to bits, and they've always been extremely supportive to me and virtually everybody I know in the industry. They're fantastic. But I don't know any of them which have made films. So you've got this interesting situation where everybody's got the same goal, but we've all got different ways of how to get there. And that's why I'm now a bit of an older tate. I'm involved, but I just do it on my own now. I'm looking to try to, as we did with Bajo and the Giants, you create teams which can do something magical, and you export and you have an income. And if you remember, it's the only film I've ever known where we gave a bonus.
I wanted to mention that. I wasn't sure if I can, but that was
Yeah.
super cool. That was
Exactly.
super cool. Yes, we had, of course, the remuneration that we had already agreed upon,
Right.
and then as the film kept on becoming more successful, we got a bonus, which was
and it
definitely a
wasn't-
first for
and
me.
it wasn't in the agreement.
Yeah.
It was something we volunteered as producers, thinking, how do we give back to our people, our football team?
Yeah.
You know, we saw what Arsenal did, yes, you know, like, you know, let's give back to the fans, you know?
Yes.
And I think it's so hard because a lot of people are naturally not doing great and they're on the take. So I've seen it in my industry where people go, and I'm going to speak freely here, where they're elected to represent me and they take money for themselves. And we can name names, and you know who you are, guys and girls. And so there's a very difficult situation where I believe that Namibia film industry will break through.
Yes.
I have zero doubt.
All right.
Now, whether it's the 2000 AD kind of films
Yes.
and massive $100 million
Mad Max, all
productions,
that, yeah.
you know, that puts Namibia on the map, but it's really us which has to put us on the map because I just think I know we've got it.
And
It's difficult to explain, but
I'm totally with you. And speaking of putting us on the map, we've got about 5 minutes left in
Yeah,
our
sure.
interview, and we are fortunate enough to have an agreement to have some of your films shown on NTV Africa. We're
Thank
absolutely looking forward to that on Africa Day. We're going to be having Namibia's wildlife economy, the Power Stone, a history of the Kwanyama Kingdom, and Waterberg to Waterberg, in the footsteps of Samuel Maherero. I am excited. A word or two about Waterberg to Waterberg,
can I switch it around?
by all means.
Because those three films, I kind of said to, because you're asking, is there anything for Africa Day, anything relevant? I thought, let me give you something over a 25-year period.
Yeah.
So the first film was shot in the 90s. That's The Power Stone, the history of Kwanyama. And I was doing an NGO movie about trees. And during that NGO movie about trees, I think it was like 30,000 Namibian dollars. It was a tiny budget, and I was young, I had a little baby, I was starting on my career, and then everybody started telling me about the Emmanuel Lomadilo or Shulongo, and I was like, what are you talking about? The Emmanuel, this Power Stone, the stone that represents the fire of the nation. Cut a long story short, I do the plants film, and I keep going back, and I speak to the Mekulus, Tatikulus. They start to trust this Oshulumbu, you know, and they're like, you know, he's the guy in the story who we're fighting. And now this guy's back to find out what his story's all about. So, you know, it was an interesting kind of meeting of worlds where they trusted me, and my eyes were open to my history of my people.
Wow.
So the British, South African kind of involvement in Namibia.
Yeah.
So I decided to make this movie, funded by the Finnish Foreign Ministry because of their involvement in Namibia during the liberation.
All right.
And the stone ended up in Finland. So it was a very interesting, and these are the stories I do. It's a whirlwind of truth, which you have to take the journey to find out what it is. So The Power Stone, for me, is one of my favorite films because it was one of my first, where I followed my heart. Everybody came into the part. I'm talking Tatikulus, I'm talking business people. All right. Then Waterberg to Waterberg came as a result of a history of making great films. I went to the NFC and I was hiking in the Waterberg in South Africa. And I know the Waterberg in Namibia because I've hiked there. I'm a hiker.
Yes.
I'm a nature boy. So I'm in the Waterberg and I meet this old white guy. And he said, "Where are you from?" And I'm walking through his farm. It's all part of the deal. And he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I'm living in Namibia." He goes, "Oh, I worked there for years. Come and have a beer with me when you finish your hike." Sit with him. And he said, "You know, Samuel Maharero is on this farm." And I said, "Excuse me, sir. I think you're wrong. You know, no, apologies. I know his history.
Yes.
He died in Botswana because I'd read a little bit." And he said, "No, no, no." And he goes out the back and he gets this photo. It's 1907.
Wow.
And there's a picture of, he said, "This is Samuel Maharero on my farm." And I went back to all the Oshirero speaking friends of mine here in Windhoek, and I started saying, "What's the story behind Samuel Maharero?" Again, cut long story short, pieced it all together, went back, stopped off in Mahalape in Botswana. I thought I've got to invest my mind, my energy, my time. And the story emerged that Samuel Maharero walked from the Waterberg in Namibia to the Waterberg in South Africa.
Wow.
Because of the genocide wars in Namibia.
Wow.
And he took a band of followers, and that's what the story is all about.
Brilliant.
So it's a true. So The Power Stone is a true story.
Yes.
Waterberg to Waterberg is a true story.
Yeah.
And Namibia's wildlife economy is a bit more of a hard-nosed economics about the value of wildlife in Namibia, and it focuses on something, and I always choose hard subjects. So it's a story about trophy hunting and hunting, which in my culture in England we don't do. The rich people do hunting. They go and hunt foxes. We don't like hunters in England. In Namibia, I think hunting is a lot more part of people's lives historically, but also it's quite elitist.
Yes.
Rich people come in. Who can afford to shoot an elephant today in Namibia? People do, and they either buy a Mercedes or they shoot an elephant. I know which I'd rather do. So I was asked by the Namibian Chamber of Environment, and there's a lot of people involved in that. So it's almost like the Namibia Chamber of Industry, but about environmental issues. And they said, look, there's a real misunderstanding about why we hunt in Namibia and the value of this hunting to our economy. So I was like, I don't do hunting. It's a bit like the Bachu thing. I don't do slaughter and mayhem and poaching. And they said, okay, do what you want to do.
Wow.
So I did, and I love it because it was one of the hardest films I've had to do, because I had to make about something I don't like. I think we're wrapping up.
I think we're wrapping up. That's an interesting statement to leave it at, because you.
So that's why I did those 3 movies. That's why I'm offering those 3 movies.
And we are absolutely appreciative of that. They will be available on DSTV 285, GoTV 25 for 1 day only. ntvafrica.my.na. Do make sure that you follow our pages for updates with regards to that. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
It's always good to see you,
Safe to
Ashwin.
say we need a little more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Gunners.
Yes, we can talk about Arsenal too. That has been Business First Africa, where it's never just business, it's life.
Thank you.